Glad I got a nice crew here. I got some familiar faces, so that's helpful. Yeah, I like to think that I'm a bit of a glutton for punishment. That's kind of like how I got my start. Is always trying to find a better way to fail. Like failing forward is like that's always the thing. And yeah, I've got a speckled history of failure. So that's I think that's what led to ultimately my success. This is funny. This is like one of my old logos. So this is like a really old deck. It's from about 3 years ago. But it's kind of nostalgic because like back then I think I had a full prototype and I was like, okay, what do I do now? Like what's next? And one of the things I'll piggyback on what Dave said was, I thought I needed somebody to sell it for me. So I looked for a distributor and I went down that pathway, but I didn't get that loop from my customer. So my distributor was selling my product, but he'd come back to me and be like, your machine's not ready yet. And I was just like, whoa, hold on a second. Like, what is it? Like paper feed? Is it the cannabis? Like what isn't working? And he'd just be like, it's just not ready yet. And so having that like really close relationship with your customers is crucial to those really early days because you gotta iterate. It's like you can't just like put something out there. All right, so this is a little bit on me. So yeah, I started in the medical device field. So I was an intern at this place called Acute Innovations. I created a couple of pretty cool products, launched them. One of them is doing like 70 million a year now in revenue. And so I'm all like watching these things grow and off my patents. And I just kind of had to sit back and, smile. So all the while, like I'm kind of like building this repertoire and, kind of signing off the patent to other people to go do the rest. And eventually I was just like, all right, I got to do it myself. So yeah, started in medical, worked for Sigma Design, big fan of them. Like I'll recommend them all day long. Like so even if you just want to like do a quick brainstorm and get a couple like really good engineers to like pick apart your ideas, a great program. I learned a ton from Bill and John Schlottman's here with Sigma Design. They'll really help you get some wind under your sails so you can actually like do stuff. So, but with them, I was able to work with places like HP, Georgia Pacific, Meta, and the best part was they were just bringing problems to me, and I was just like, this is awesome. Like I love a good hard problem. And then eventually I was starting to become like a manager and it was starting to get boring again. And I started looking for the next hard problem. And that's when I had my first pre-roll. So I've been smoking weed since I was in high school. So it's kind of weird saying that. And it's been on and off and I'm not like habitual. But it really helps me open up my clarity sometimes when I need another perspective on a problem. And I always was all about creating like the best joint. Like I was like the best grind, the best flour, the best papers. Like 'cause I'm an engineer and I nerd out on that stuff. And then when I had my first like legal one from the store, I was like, this is garbage. Like, and I was just like, this is an atrocious, representation of cannabis. And so I was kind of able to like be my own customer when I was like, all right, well, what's going on here? And the first thing that I noticed was it was crazy manual. So you go to these productions, they got a bunch of people around a table and they're filling these cones with flour. It's like an easy CFO pitch to be like, well, I got a machine that replaces 8 people. Like, put that in a spreadsheet, So that was like the easy like money case. And then, I knew this from experience that, packing a cone from the top, it's just never going to be right. And then I realized that these little paper cones are handmade overseas. So it's like this crazy unsustainable loop that it kind of like hurt me on like an environmental, level. And I was like, this is not cool. So I was like, great problems to solve. Let's get to work. So this is the CFO pitch, right? Like, you got 4 people, you got 180 output an hour. And so then I was like, all right, I'm pretty sure, I can make a machine that does, roughly 1,000. And so it's like, boom, there you go. Your COGS are down by, 1,000%, like done, buy the machine. And then this is a little bit more about like the technology. So right now, they fill these little paper cones from the top. And so you gotta dry out your flour. And actually, any weed smokers in here? Anybody? Yeah, all right. All right. Yeah, metric. Yep. Yeah. So you don't want to dry out your flour. Like that's the one thing. Like as soon as you get your little bag from the dealer, which was super sketchy, you want to put it in a jar and you just want to seal it up forever. So I was realizing they're degrading their flour substantially. And that was creating an uneven burn and ultimately a poor user experience. So my technology rolls the joint, so you see it's nice and evenly compacted, and it's a huge value add to the end consumer. Outside of like all the labor stuff, it's like people are able to build brands off of this machine. So when their competitor has a product like this, and then they go try, my customer's product, it's like light years better. So they're building this brand recognition, which is great. I love to see my machine building companies, And then, this is the raw material. So these are the cones, and you can see this is them hand forming them overseas. And they do this like hundreds of millions of cones are made overseas by hand. It's insane. But my consumables come straight off of a paper mill, so very sustainable, very cheap, and I get to pass that on to my client as well. This is a bit of the development cycle. So that's, with my skill set, I was able to just dive right in and really start getting my hands dirty. So this was, the very first concept in the garage. Bunch of 3D printed parts and, some poorly machined components because I did all the machining as well. And then this one got a little bit more automatic. This is when I started teaching myself like firmware, and that was something else I really wanted to learn, was how to do code. And then, kind of moved my way to like feeding the paper. And then this was like a semi-auto. And then that was kind of like my true like test bed. And I built it all in the garage. So it was a fun few years. I had a lot of fun doing that. Just, getting high in the garage and start tinkering, it's fun. And then this is how it is today. So there's quite a bit of glow up. I wanted to make it look like a product. Most of the machines that I'm competing with are kind of look like this, or they're all stainless steel. And so being like a product guy, I was like, all right, I gotta like put some rounded edges, and make it look good. So that's how we sell it today. This is another cool thing that I learned. I learned this from Oculus. Always have data coming back from your devices. Like, however you do it, get some kind of data back. I know you guys talk about this. Yeah, you gotta have data coming back because, and it was in the beginning, I was kind of like, what am I gonna do with all this? This is kind of like, jumbled. But now it's extremely helpful because I can take the revenue from each of my customers, and then I can take how many joints they're rolling, and I can like totally determine like who's like underserved, who's overserved, and we can finesse like how we support them. So this is something I'm always pushing to founders is like find a way to get data back from the device. Like that is like really, it's critical. This was like the later part of my trajectory. I love to show this because this is like an old deck. Because it was like, man, it was just like janky in the garage. And oh, this is a good learning experience. Everybody was saying like, you got to go to hardened electronics. You got to go to PLCs, and because that's like the tried and true. But I switched to PLCs. I had to like change all my firmware, and then everything was crazy expensive, and I was handcuffed. You know, I couldn't do certain things. So my machine actually still runs on these little Arduinos and Raspberry Pis, and it works great. It's wonderful, and they're like $30 each. So it's like if one fries, it's like you send them a new one, and you don't even blink an eye. So that's another little bit of advice. You know, if you have like a mechatronics, I love those things. And yeah, it looks like we're at full production now. So we're gonna do about 70 machines this year, and we've got about 150 out in the wild. So it's been a good few years for me.